The Pixel 7 Pro is the best phone that Google has ever made, but it's also the least exciting. Here's what you need to know. So Google's Pixel 6 Pro, when it launched last year, was a superb bit of kit. I even gave it a coveted CNET Editor's Choice Award. And this phone was a huge overhaul from the Pixel 5 before it, but it was such a big overhaul that it meant that there's not a lot of change in the new model 1 year on. But of course, there doesn't really need to be. Google clearly found its feet with the Pixel 6, and just 1 year is not enough time to warrant a complete overhaul of an already excellent phone. So instead of needlessly changing everything about the Pixel 6, Google has instead made lots of little refinements, tweaks here and there, little pokes and prods in all kinds of different ways that all add up to make the Pixel 7 Pro an absolutely superb phone. We get improved cameras, some added new neat tricks, and, dare I say it, an even more attractive design. But it is very much evolution over revolution, so those of you wanting something completely new from Google will be a little disappointed. So with that all being said, let's dive in to find out what I really like about this phone. The design is familiar but refined. Google has maintained that camera strip across the back that houses the 3 lenses. But that strip is now made of recycled aluminium, and it blends seamlessly with the aluminium surround on the phone. It's a small shift, but I think it really adds something to the overall look and feel of the thing. The back is still glass and the front still curves nicely at the edges, so I just think it feels generally like a very luxurious, very premium phone. And it's IP68 rated, so spilled drinks or taking phone calls in the rain should be of no concern. However, I do worry that that shiny metal strip could be a little susceptible to damage. Even just in the short time I've been testing it, I've already noticed some very small hairline scratches on that shiny surface that over time could become a bit more pronounced. Whether that's actually a problem remains to be seen. It is possible, of course, that it could age beautifully over time like solid brass instruments that develop a patina, a life of their own as they get more scratched. And maybe after 3 years with the phone, all those little scratches will just tell of the story of the time you've spent with your phone. Or maybe that's just wishful thinking. The display measures 6.7 inches and it's got a 3120 by 1440 pixel resolution. That is exactly the same as the Pixel 6 Pro. It's sharp and bright enough to be used outside, and it's got bold, punchy colours that I found lend themselves well to vibrant YouTube videos, maybe some of the ones you've seen on this channel, but it still manages not to look too oversaturated or unrealistic. There is no question that at 6.7 inches it is a big phone, and that is great for those of you that like big screen gaming or if you watch a lot of videos on the move. But those of you with smaller hands, or just those of you who prefer a smaller phone, might find it a little bit cumbersome to use, particularly if you're trying to text with one hand. Okay, let's talk about those cameras. The cameras on the Pixel 6 Pro were superb, capable of taking beautiful photos that rivaled any other phone of its time. So I'm glad to say that Google hasn't lost its touch here. The Pixel 7 Pro's 50 megapixel main camera takes beautiful photos with superb dynamic range and spot-on colours. It's taken some glorious shots on my test photo walks around my home in all of its autumnal glory, with vivid blue skies being captured perfectly and tons of detail captured by that high-resolution sensor. The optical telephoto zoom has been given a boost from 4 times to 5 times. Now that might not seem like a huge difference, but it is just enough to give you that extra bit of reach in the zoom to help you find those more interesting compositions in a scene. Compositions that might actually be lost to your iPhone 14 Pro using friends with their 3x zoom. Like the main lens, the telephoto zoom captures beautiful images with great dynamic range and accurate colours. Personally, that 5x telephoto zoom is one of my favourite things about this camera. It is a great sweet spot between the iPhone's 3x zoom and the Galaxy S22 Ultra's 10x zoom. Switching to the ultra-wide lens lets you pack in much more into your scene, and I'm impressed to see that there is no noticeable colour shift when switching between the lenses. The ultra-wide's new autofocus system though does bring a cool new feature though in the form of macro photography. You can now focus within a couple of inches of that lens, so you can get really great close-up shots of things like bugs or flowers. It works well too by automatically switching to that macro mode when it detects something close up and focuses quickly. And sure, having a macro camera might not exactly be a standout feature for many of you, but it certainly is a fun addition, particularly on those occasions when an interesting bug creeps towards you and you just want to get a close-up shot to show it off on the gram. Night mode images are good as well, with the night sight mode being able to take 6-second long exposures, which captures a huge amount of light even in very dark scenarios. The night shots are bright and crisp, but I have found some issues with flaring, particularly with things like street lamps if they're closer to the camera. It's a shame as sometimes it's so strong, but it does spoil the image for me. Google has continued to make AI improvements to its camera software as well, with updates to its real tone algorithm for better capture of darker skin tones. There's also a new guided frame feature that helps blind or partially sighted people take selfies. Then there's the neat new trick called Photo Unblur, which, as the name suggests, unblurs your photos. I tried it on a handful of my older photos and the difference can be quite noticeable, with some shots having a definite improvement in clarity after the tool has done its magic. Other shots didn't seem to have quite the same difference, and if your photo is incredibly blurry, then really, there's not a lot that any AI can do to help save your shot. So it's a neat trick, but you can't expect miracles. The phone runs on the second generation of Google's own homemade processor called Tensor G2. Now, it was a bold move for Google to start making its own silicon for its phones, rather than using something off the shelf like one of Qualcomm's chips. But the reality is that in everyday use you will not know that there is anything different inside this thing, as it just performs like any other Android phone. And it's got more than enough power to make this thing run beautifully. Navigating around the interface is swift and lag-free, apps open immediately, switching between open tasks is incredibly quick, and it can handle things like high-resolution streaming and demanding games with things like Asphalt 9 Legends or Genshin Impact playing at max settings without any noticeable problems. In short, it is packed with power, but it's the behind-the-scenes stuff that Google says has been improved with this new chip. Because it's built with AI and machine learning in mind, and indeed Google says that various tasks that use that have been improved. In particular, things like speech recognition in transcription, object detection in imagery, better AI to reduce background noise in your phone calls, and even deeper security things, which has allowed the Pixel 7 Pro to have Face Unlock, as well as a fingerprint scanner in the screen. The phone is running the latest version of Android 13, which I really enjoyed using because it is clean, clutter-free, and just easy to use. It's got no bloatware or other nonsense pre-installed on it, so it just feels very streamlined, and it means that even Android novices will not find it difficult to get up to speed with a phone like this. So what don't I like about the Pixel 7 Pro? Well, one of the only negatives I can really throw at it is that its battery life could be better. On my YouTube streaming battery tests, I found that it didn't fare quite as well as either the old Pixel 6 Pro or the Pixel 6a. Or the Pixel 7, or the iPhone 13. But the battery life isn't bad, it's just not as good as it could be. It'll still comfortably get through a full day of mixed use, and as with pretty much any other phone you can buy right now, you'll still put it on charge for a full boost overnight. So I really don't think its battery life is problematic, it's just worth keeping in mind if you are the sort of person that really tries to squeeze every last drop of juice from their batteries. But there is little else I can say that I don't like about this phone. While it doesn't have the same pizzazz that the 6 Pro had when it launched last year, it makes enough refinements across the board to result in a phone which is absolutely stunning to use, and every bit deserving of its flagship status. Needless to say though, if you have already got the Pixel 6 Pro, then this is not worth an upgrade. But if you are using an older Pixel phone, or any older phone at all for that matter, then it is absolutely worth a look. But what do you think to Google's Pixel 7 Pro? Is it the flagship Android phone for you, or have you got your eyes set elsewhere? Do of course make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to check out the video description for a lot more information about the phone.